Welcome to Suburban Warrior, the podcast that will impact, inspire, and empower you to transform your mindset and become the badass warrior that you are. I'm your host and fellow warrior, Chrissy Pfeiffer, former clinician and corporate marketing exec turned multi-passionate entrepreneur, performance and life coach, and mom to 4 not-so-little warriors. Each week, I will bring you honest conversations with inspiring guests to share their stories of resilience, optimism, success, and simple yet effective strategies so that you transform your thoughts and change your behavior to get the results you want in your life. You will be empowered to take action, warrior up, and believe in you. Let's do this. What's up, warriors? Welcome back to another episode of the Suburban Warrior podcast. And you guessed it, I have another amazing Suburban Warrior here to share her story with all of us. And I'm really excited because this Suburban Warrior, everything that she's doing, not only is it about us as women, but she's really passionate about our girls, our daughters. And I can't wait for you to hear all the amazing things that she has going on. So without further ado, let me introduce Ellen Langas. She is a nationally recognized youth career education advocate for the last 2 decades. Ellen is passionate about encouraging kids to explore and pursue the careers of their dreams. Compelled to inspire future generations of girls and her own daughters to dream big, she founded Girls Know How and Kids Know How and created Girls Know How Books, a national award-winning series that inspires young readers to discover careers and the life skills to help them achieve them. The series was named the book series of 2021 by Take Our Daughters and Sons to Work Foundation, and she was selected to host the organization's first virtual Take Our Daughters and Sons to Work Day global event on April 22nd, 2021. Ellen is president of NouSoma Communications, Inc., one of the Philadelphia region's top full-service marketing, branding, and public relations companies. Prior to founding NouSoma in 1995, Ellen was on the executive leadership team of Billion Dollar QVC Inc., where she organized the public relations department and gained national visibility as a popular TV host. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast, Ellen. It's so awesome to have you here.
Hi, Chrissy. It's good to be here too. And hello to all your listeners.
I'm really excited to hear about the award-winning book series. So I definitely want to get into that. But first, everything that you're doing, the books, the PR, you're so passionate about inspiring and empowering women and girls. So how did that come about? Tell us a little bit about where that passion came from.
Sure. And I think it started just from the way I was brought up. And as I got older, looking back, thinking, how can I change things for the next generation, and particularly for my daughters? But growing up, when I did, and having great parents, I have to say, I didn't have the role models that I could see myself in roles. I couldn't really picture what I could do. And I wasn't even aware of the opportunities that were out there. When you think about, excuse me, a lot of us probably were in the same situation. There's not much you can control when you're a child. And I was pretty much raised to be seen, not heard. And so it was very difficult when it was time to want to go on to college. My folks thought it would be fine if I just would pretty much learn how to type and take shorthand. And when I announced that I want to go on to higher education, just into graduate school, if you saw my big fat Greek wedding, you probably understand exactly where I'm coming from. My dad said when I wanted to move 30 miles, not 30 miles away, 30 minutes away, you ruined the family.
That's so funny.
And also, I don't know how your experience was, Chrissy, or some of your listeners, but middle school can be tough.
Oh, yeah.
If you're not in, you're out. And I saw that when I was a child, and I really assumed that wouldn't happen for my children. But I saw history repeating itself. And that's when I thought, there must be something that I could do. And certainly one thing, writing books isn't going to change the trajectory of every girl, but if it changes the trajectory of one girl, then I've done my duty. And there was my inspiration.
So I love that. And there's so much that you said in that. But what's funny is, my experience was actually very much the same. I feel like, I grew up in a small town. My mom was a nurse and my father was a police officer. And so the roles that I felt that were available to me, it was like, do you want to be a teacher, a hairdresser, a nurse? And I actually went to college for nursing eventually, but my dad was like, why do you need to go to college? Just go to nursing school. And,
Right.
He didn't understand that, it was something so much bigger than just a career. Right. But I do feel like even now I talk to my kids and my daughters. I have a 20-year-old in college and teenagers in high school. And we talk about there are so many jobs and careers out there that we don't even see, that we don't even know about. So just the concept of the books, about everything that's available to them and starting that in middle school, I think it's an amazing concept. And like you said, I'm sure writing books is going to impact just more than one girl. But I think the concept of it is something that is really needed by our youth right now, because when you're that age, you can't really see yourself doing something unless you can see it being done.
Thank you.
Right?
I think that makes it more believable. And, we did a lot of research. It's interesting what you were just saying, because we did a poll of 1,000 boys and girls to see what they wanted to be. And the number one answer was, you can take a guess, for girls.
A teacher?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. That was a good guess.
Because they see teachers. And
Yes.
the number one answer for boys was?
A doctor?
No, professional athlete.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God, I should have guessed that. That's exactly what my son wants to be.
But our research
So
told us, and I thought this was the most interesting thing, that up to the age of about 12, boys and girls are on an equal level playing field. Their ambition, their hopes, their leadership skills, even their math scores. But it's in middle school when girls often have an abrupt change with a focus on social acceptance and body consciousness. And while that doesn't sound like, oh dear, it really is, because it can change what classes they take.
Yeah.
If it's not cool. And when you start changing your classes, especially when it comes to technology, and I don't want to be called a geek. I don't want to be called an overachiever. Then when you go to get into honors classes or even choose what your major is for college, you didn't take some of those prerequisites. So it actually has that ripple effect. And really, all I want to do through these books is, first, we're introducing different careers. They're fiction books, by the way. And they're chapter books, which kids really like to read. You don't have to read them in any order. But beyond introducing the career, we're introducing real life female role models who are already successes in those areas. And we intertwine the messages that you and I both are always trying to tell our kids.
Yeah.
And they're things like teamwork, communication, teamwork, communication, leadership skills. What I love is talking about friendships and conflict resolution.
Yeah.
And also building this culture of inclusiveness. And you can see that between the lines throughout these books. And it's interesting when I ask the girls, what do you get out of this? Because we always have kid testers. And they'll say things like, oh, this book was about trying hard and having perseverance. Or, oh, this book was about what's the true meaning of friendship. And the book was maybe about journalism or construction, but that's what I do want them to get out of these books.
Sure. You want them to see a deeper meaning than just what the career is, right?
Yeah. You don't have to hit them over the head with it. They get that by the storyline, because these stories are about girls that are just like them.
Yeah. And I have some of your books in front of me, and I love how you said they're fictional books, but they include real life examples. And on the back of every one of your books is a picture, right, of the real life example of, for the one I'm looking at is Raising the Roof, and it's about construction.
Yeah.
And on the back is a woman who's the president of a construction company. So it's not just fiction. It for them, they can see like, oh, okay, this is someone that's doing it. So I think that's such an amazing point that you include in your books.
Thank you. And we also include a Girls Want to Know interview with that woman and a bio about her. And we have some activities that they can do. In that one, they can build their own clubhouse. So we want to warn all mothers that they may want to after they read that. And we have free downloads at girlsknowhow.com. Plus, we have teachers' study guides for every book. So, especially if you're homeschooling or even looking for some bridge activities in the summertime, we have those companion pieces to make them come to life.
That's wonderful. So, would you recommend your books? Like, what is the ideal age that you would recommend read your books?
I think they're perfect for ages 7 to 12.
Got it.
I
Okay.
think after 12, they're probably just not cool enough to read.
Yeah.
But,
Exactly.
and actually, advanced readers as a 6-year-old, depending, could start them, or you could read them to your children. But I think the sweet spot is 7 to 12 because they like reading about 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. 8th graders don't really want to read about 6th graders.
Right. No, exactly. For sure.
We know, right?
Yes. Oh boy, all too well. Okay, so what I love too about when I was reading your bio and knowing about your history, right? You've done a lot in your career. You were on QVC, you have a PR and marketing company. Now you've written books. I mean, there's so many different things that you've done with your career. And I'm sure like as a little girl, you didn't foresee any of it. And same with me. Like I said, I went to college as a nursing major. I worked as a clinical nurse for a couple years before getting into medical device sales and pharma sales and spent a bulk of my career in pharmaceutical marketing, then becoming a coach. And now I'm podcasting. I mean, you name it, right? So it's like all of these different things that we do. So, I think it's hard for young people to understand sort of that zigzag idea of a career, right? They just look at one thing like doctor, nurse, lawyer, teacher. So what is your advice, or what is your thoughts about that zigzag of a part, of how your career does that?
Right. And that's for us as adults and for how we're going to help guide our children. I think the best thing to know for kids is that it doesn't matter that they don't know what they want to be. You and I both know, and everyone listening, we've changed our minds a lot. And I'm just going to get this right out in the open right now, Chrissy. I always wanted to be a singer.
Oh, I love it.
Well, you would think, persevere, hard work, you're
Right.
going to achieve your dreams. Well,
Yep.
I don't want to burst everyone's bubble, but sometimes that just doesn't work. I not only took lessons, I was let go, maybe say fired from lessons I was paying for, not once, but twice. So,
Oh my God.
so if anybody knows, all dreams don't come true.
Oh
I
my God,
do.
that's really funny.
But I think it's important to let kids try. It's the experiential component that makes the difference for kids. You can read about it, yay, but when you experience it, and that's why it's wonderful to let kids maybe take a class or maybe come to work with you, or most important, talk to someone. My daughter really thought maybe she wanted to be a lawyer. And so I said, well, you can, but before you go into law school, you have to have 2 interviews with lawyers. And so she did that dutifully. And she came back to me and she goes, I didn't really realize that's what lawyers do. And my goodness,
So funny.
thank goodness we didn't pay for law school.
Right, exactly.
So I think the experiential learning is good. And I also want to remind people that the power of play is so important. You'd be surprised at how much kids learn about conflict resolution and all those life skills that you need. And perhaps read about different jobs, together. But that's for the younger set. And as for us, a lot of us have gone through a point in time where, we think we need to make a change, but we're not sure if we should. But according to statistics like the Labor Department of Statistics, 5 to 7 times, 7 is the average for job changes. The company Indeed says as much as a dozen changes in your careers. So I think I want people to remember you're not alone out there. And that's for job changes, but career changes, almost half of the people go through career changes, and it usually happens right around age 40. And guess what the number one reason people are doing these big abrupt career changes?
They're unhappy.
It's unhappiness.
Yeah.
It's not, hey, I'm not making enough money. I need to make a change. So sometimes you think, oh, that's the logical thing. But the real
Right.
logical thing is you're not happy. How do we make the change? My big leap of faith had nothing to do with anything other than I was reading the Sunday paper one day. And now that I have revealed that I want to be a singer, there was some artsy kind of thing in my mind, even though I'd gone into business.
Right.
So one Sunday, I'm reading the Sunday newspaper, and it wasn't a want ad because I wasn't looking for a job. I had a pretty nice career at the time as a senior ad executive at an agency, and I was making good money for my peers. So it said, "Do you want to be a TV host?" And I thought, why, yes, I do.
As a matter of fact,
right?
I certainly do. I love that.
This is back when Vanna White was flipping letters in the sequence.
Of course.
And I'm like, yeah, I could get into this. And so I took an audition, not knowing what, and it was QVC. I didn't know what that was. I'd never heard of TV shopping. And I got the job. And all my friends told me it was career suicide at the time because I took a pay cut. And by the way, 58% of people take a pay cut when they make that career change. So
wow.
I just did it. And it was the best sense of adventure. And all I have to say is, who's laughing now?
Exactly. Right. It is about, I think, just going back to your point about unhappiness. And that's a big reason why a lot of people end up changing careers. I think that's a sign. I think a lot of people don't listen to that unhappiness, or they try to just suppress it. Like, if they're miserable and frustrated and really unhappy in their careers, they try to suppress it because change isn't easy. And sometimes thinking about change can be difficult. To your point, taking a pay cut can sometimes feel scary, but it is about looking at it for the long haul, right? And looking in the long run. And if, sometimes it is scary taking that leap of faith. But to your point, it was, sometimes you have to look at it as an adventure or what's next. And it's really the evolution, right? It's growth. And that's what we're meant to be as human beings. We're meant to grow and try new things and learn something new all the time. And it's not just about staying in one career that you're not happy in.
And, to be responsible and to be sensitive, we can't be nonchalant. Some of us do have to have money first. We don't have the ability to change our stars in that regard, but we do have the ability to come up with a plan to change. I mean, how many of us when we were younger did something we really didn't want to do?
Of course.
I had to type 1,000 little number one keychains for Hertz Rental Car on a typewriter. And after I piled up 1,000 of them all around me and said, okay, I'm done. What's my next job? Thinking I'd be, they said, oh no, there's two sides to the keychain. You have to type it on the other side too. So we all have those.
Oh my gosh, did we? We all had jobs that we really, really didn't want to do, but had to do
just for the money.
For the money, exactly. But I love that your point. We all have the ability to make a plan, right? And that's really what it's about. It's about making a plan, figuring out how, because there's always a way. There's a way to do it, but looking at the plan. So you also mentioned about take your daughter to work day, because when you're talking about your daughter, you said get experiences. It's really the best way that we can get our kids to really give them exposure to different careers. And bring your son or daughter to work day is coming up very soon.
It is. And I'm glad you bring this up because this goes right hand in hand with what I was talking about with experiential learning. Since 1993, Take Our Daughters and Sons to Work Day has been just a wonderful way for people to take kids to the workplace, and kids have an opportunity to see their parents or other adults in action at the workplace. But, with the pandemic last year, that sort of changed everything.
Yeah.
And the way people are interacting now is different at work, at school, and especially at home. So this year, they turned the tables. And instead of taking kids to the workplace, they're bringing the workplace to kids with their first virtual Take Our Daughters and Sons to Work Day. So that every year it's on the fourth Thursday of April. And this year that would be April 22nd.
Okay.
And I am so excited to be the host for their first virtual program. It's going to be at twice, 9 a.m. Eastern time, and then it's going to be rebroadcast at noon Eastern time, and that's going to be with host Courtney Kaysen. And the programming will be the same, but we have two awesome guests. I'll have the opportunity to interview Gloria Steinem live.
Oh, wow.
Courtney will be interviewing Gitanjali Rao, who is Time Magazine's first ever Kid of the Year.
Wow.
And in both programs, we're going to be showing kids behind the scenes at 15 different work locations and talking to 15 different people via video, of course. It will be via video, but it's all free, and anyone can sign up at daughtersandSons2work.org. So that's daughtersandSons2work.org. So I hope everyone will join us. And in fact, if you go to that same website, you can download some free materials. There are teacher activity guides there. There's a passport for kids that is translated into several languages. And you can send in a question that we might be able to ask live to either Gloria or Gitanjali.
Oh, great. That is very cool.
Doesn't that sound great?
Oh my gosh, it sounds so fun. And, we'll also put that link in the show notes as well.
Thank you.
I think that sounds just very exciting. And if to attend those events virtually, and then also, how would you suggest, for, obviously a lot of people aren't going into offices, these days still. So do you think it's still beneficial for daughters and sons to stay with a parent, or even if they're working from home, attend meetings, see what their parents do, or maybe even if they're a little bit older and it's something they're really interested in, maybe someone else's parent, right?
Absolutely. I always think it's a very, very valuable experience. And, you can pick up so many skills. As I worked out of my home for a short time when my children were very young, although I had separate office facilities, I would bring them in and they would be helpful. And then I would let them do some tasks. Now, this was back when there were fax machines. So I would have them, fax things. I would have them come with me when I did the book series. I brought them up to New York on a train for the first time ever and sit through the interview that I had with Marsha Bullard, who was the president of USA Today Weekend magazine at the time. And so to have those experiences, they never forget. And they get to see their mom's demeanor. What is a professional way to interact? I took them on radio interviews with me and let them speak as well. So they landed up having skills that a lot of children did not have at the time. And it also made them feel much more comfortable meeting and introducing people. I taught them exactly how you introduce and how do you respond, because kids sometimes need that little primer, like, oh, what do you say? How do you make those introductions? So I'm a big proponent of that.
Exactly. I think that it's best for kids to learn by exposure and learn by example, and to be able to mirror that behavior. And that the only way to do that is to see it and have that exposure. So with that being said, then my next question was going to be, how can we prepare our kids for the workplace of the future? Because who knows what it's going to look like, but what do you think is the best way to prepare them with this changing landscape that is before us?
Yeah, the interesting thing is for kids as well as adults, believe it or not, we don't know what jobs will be coming up. Who could have predicted the pandemic and how many different new jobs there are in science and technology surrounding that, or even in automobile manufacturing or video games. So the most important thing is to keep the conversation going. That's one thing we can do as far as about what kind of skills are we going to need. But kids are going to have to be resilient. And that means a lot of things will be learned on the job, because you'll have to train for that particular company that you're interested in. So keeping that conversation going, exploring things, being able to talk about different jobs as they're coming up, researching them. The thing that we have control of as parents is the life skills. And so that's something that's going to be the best thing. And that's where you say that you aren't afraid to learn new things, try things together, be able to be handling conflict resolution. There's not as much teamwork and interaction because of the isolation that social media has caused, and particularly the pandemic, but that we will reclaim. But by being able to help build those teamwork and communication skills, that's what's going to be great. And I'd like to really underscore the importance of building a culture of inclusiveness. We've seen some amazing initial transformation happening, certainly not enough. But by raising our children, that is just second nature, that there's a culture of inclusiveness, that's important. And I think it'll be very important that children understand the importance of respecting multi-generational interaction as well.
Yeah, wow, that's really just amazing advice. And I think to your point about the resilience and the life skills, I see that already just with high schoolers and college age kids. Like they really are, I think, learning to be even more resilient than kids normally are because of what they've been dealt and the changes that have been made and how they have had to navigate, this new environment and changing landscape. So, hopefully the resilience is there because they don't really have a choice right now. But to your point about building the life skills and having exposure to that, I just think it's all such wonderful advice. Alan, this has been such an awesome conversation and so informative and exciting. And I just love all of these books. And, you sent me a set. I love them. They look so fun to read. And I think that for middle school, like you said, 7 to 12-year-old, I wish I had these books for my girls when they were their age. I might just make them read them now. I'm sure they'll be thrilled.
Anyone in elementary school, I think they're ideal for. Sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, I know that you mentioned we're going to do a little contest on Instagram and we're going to give away a set. So you guys all know where to find me. I'm at Suburban Warrior on Instagram. And how about you, Alan? Where can they find you on social?
We are at Girls Know How, and on Instagram, we're Girls Know How Official. So Let's press there. We love to keep that conversation going. Tell us what you want to be when you grow up.
Oh, I love that. I love it. I mean, honestly, talking about what you want to be when you grow up is such a fun thing. So I'm sure you're having so much fun.
It's always a story, right?
Always a story. And it's so great. So, all right, guys, be sure to follow Girls Know How Official on social. You can also go to girlsknowhow.com. And, like Alan said, there's some free downloads there. And you can also check out the book series, which I would say if you have someone in elementary school, absolutely check it out because the books look really, really awesome.
And we're donating a portion of all proceeds all April to take our daughters and sons to work day.
That's great. And that's the other point. Take your sons and daughters to work day. Be sure to check that out. I think that's always such a fun, special day. And it's only one day a year. So take advantage of it. Bring your sons and daughters to work. Show them what you're doing. Show them what it's like to live in a day in the life of mom or dad at work, right? Which is really so exciting. Okay. So yeah, of course. Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening in to another episode of Suburban Warrior Podcast. We will see you again next week, and be sure to drop a comment. Let us know what you think of the episode and subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Have a great week, guys. See you next time.